Charlie Kirk.
Governor.
The hell are you doing here? What, by the way, what brings you to California, your favorite state?
It is my favorite state in the union. You're doing such a great job here, by the way. No, I'm honored to be on the show. Thank you. And
you were just down at USC?
I was at USC yesterday, drew a big crowd.
By the way, I knew you were at USC early because my niece, who's graduating.
She was the one with the MAGA hat on.
She was, by the way, I do have to watch, but she was down there and she was like, she said,
you never know. These kids are going to the right.
I'm aware. She said, this crowd's crazy. The point, which is you are making a damn dent.
Thank you. I'm kidding.
No, but I know, but I appreciate that. I mean, it's the reason you're here because I think people need to understand your success, your influence, what you've been up to, and the fact that you're on these college campus stores. And to your point, man, you just open up. I mean, you're like, ask me anything.
Anything.
It all started with a move that shocked both the left and the right. Charlie Kirk, a fierce conservative, sat down for a one-on-one podcast with none other than Gavin Newsom, California's ultra-polished Democratic governor. Yes, you heard that right. The same Charlie Kirk who's made a name for himself going after progressive policies actually accepted an invitation to be the very first guest on Newsom's new podcast. This wasn't some quiet behind-the-scenes chat. This was public, promoted, and broadcast for millions to see. And that's where Megyn Kelly stepped in, and she wasn't holding back. During her own show, she called it exactly how she saw it. According to her, this wasn't just a chat between political opponents. This was Gavin Newsom training, practicing, sharpening his sword in preparation for a 2028 presidential run. And who better to train against than top conservative voices like Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon? She was blunt. We shouldn't be giving him practice. We shouldn't be helping him. By the way, before we continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and share more intriguing stories. Now, let's continue. So the question became, was Charlie Kirk being used? Was Newsom turning conservatives into stepping stones on his path to the White House? Kelly thought so. She didn't just question the move, she saw it as a strategic mistake, one that could cost conservatives dearly down the line. Charlie didn't back down. He pushed right back at Megyn's take and with a smirk, explained what really happened behind the scenes. According to him, when he agreed to be on the podcast, there wasn't some grand plan or political calculation. In fact, he claimed the whole setup was vague at first.
How about Gavin or Newsom? The hell?
Oh, no,
the hell is... who's a better actor? I'm not sure. They're both up for an award.
I was watching him on MSNBC. He's got a new hand motion. I was going to text him. It's this. It's got like, usually it's kind of this, and then he's doing this. He was doing this thing on MSNBC. He's doing this whole thing. Look, he is the fakest person I think I've ever met in my entire life.
There were no promises of fiery debate or gotcha moments. Just a friendly discussion, or so they said. But then came the charm attack. When Charlie arrived, Newsom and his team rolled out the red carpet almost literally. Newsom's staff gushed over how much his son supposedly loved Charlie and how excited they were to have him there. It was so over the top that Charlie joked he wasn't sure if Newsom was trying to recruit him into the Democratic Party or sign up for Turning Point himself. It was that thick, almost nauseating, as Charlie put it. And yet, Kirk played along. He stayed cool. But he knew right then and there that Newsom was working an angle. He wasn't just trying to have a polite conversation. He was trying to disarm, to look friendly, to humanize himself in front of a conservative audience. But Charlie claims he didn't fall for it. He says he walked into a charm trepanned, still came out on top. Because what happened next? That's where things really got interesting. Charlie didn't just show up and smile for the camera, he made waves. During the conversation, he brought up one of the most controversial issues out there, biological males competing in girls' sports. And here's the shocker, Gavin Newsom agreed with him. Right there on his own podcast, Newsom admitted it's unfair for boys to compete against girls in female sports leagues. That moment was huge. It wasn't some vague, watered-down comment. It was a clear admission.
I hope you guys retreat.
You kind of like the
more
advice.
for us.
You like
I mean,
the advice.
there's no opposition. There's no activist spark. You guys are posting these cringe videos on social media.
What are the videos? What are the ones that
I don't know,
most
this
cringy?
like harmonious thing of like 22 senators all saying the same
Oh, you
thing.
didn't like that, yeah.
I didn't like it.
What
I mean,
do you-
go
what do
ahead,
you-
go do more of that.
What do you do?
Please.
But what do you do? Seriously, Charlie Kirk, give us some advice.
Get better ideas, Governor. To President Trump's credit, he also harmonized with this strategy by going on podcasting and using TikTok. He personified what a lot of young people, especially young men, wanted back in their politics, which was an ascendant rebel attitude against these institutions that have failed them so miserably.
And Charlie made sure it got noticed. He pressed the issue directly, and Newsom caved, giving a response that even most Democrats quietly agree with but rarely say out loud. Charlie didn't gloat. He kept it focused and factual, and the win was so clean, so undeniable, that even left-leaning media had to acknowledge it happened. Newsom didn't dodge or pivot. He gave Einon an issue his own party keeps pretending is settled. And Megyn Kelly, to her credit, acknowledged that too. She said Kirk did a great job during the actual discussion. He was sharp, calm, and nailed the points. But still, she stood by her main concern. No matter how good Kirk performed, the real danger wasn't what happened in the podcast. It was what Newsom might do with it afterward. The clip could become political ammo, a highlight reel for a man trying to convince America he's a centrist. Megyn's warning wasn't just about that one moment. It was about the bigger picture. She saw Gavin Newsom as a slick, calculating figure-one who's gearing up for a White House run and using every opportunity to polish his public image. And to her, every time a strong conservative like Charlie Kirk or Steve Bannon sits across from him, it gives Newsom more practice, more screen time, and more credibility with the middle-of-the-road voters. She wasn't subtle about it either. She said straight up, "He doesn't deserve our help." From her perspective, Newsom is weak on the debate stage. Just look at how he struggled against Ron DeSantis on Hannity. He's not smooth under real pressure. That's why these podcast appearances matter so much to him. Every interview with a conservative isn't just a discussion, it's a training session. He's learning how to appeal to independents, how to handle tough questions, and how to make himself look like a moderate without actually changing a thing. Kelly believed this wasn't about open dialogue or healthy debate. It was strategy, and in her view, Republicans were falling for it, helping the enemy level up, making him sharper, stronger, more relatable to voters who might otherwise be skeptical. She wasn't angry at Charlie personally, she said she loves him, but she made her point clear. You're helping him get better, and that's not a win for us. Charlie wasn't having it. He respected Megyn's concern but saw things completely differently. In his eyes, this wasn't some political training camp for Gavin Newsom. Quite the opposite. Charlie believed the podcast appearance actually exposed Newsom as a weak, over-polished phony who wouldn't survive a real Democrat primary. He laid it out. Clearly, Newsom is betting that voters have short memories, that they'll forget he wrecked California's economy, that he shut down schools for years, that he played dictator during the pandemic. According to Charlie, Newsom thinks he can just slide to the center.
Gavin Newsom, if you're listening to this, you're a failure. Mayors are actually some of the most powerful people in the country. The police are responsive to the mayor. The building codes are responsive to the mayor. The homeless, mayors are very, very powerful. So he was mayor of San Francisco. Would you let your son walk the streets of San Francisco unaccompanied at 1 a.m.? No, you wouldn't. I'm sorry. Your son can't walk the streets of the city that you were in charge of. You're a disgrace. Gavin Newsom, you just want political power. You have no guiding beliefs at all. Just leave the Democrat Party. That's my advice to him. If you really want to be in elected office that bad, just leave the Democrat Party and just go run as a moderate Republican and just have some sort of conversion story.
Charm the press and coast through the primaries without being called out. But Charlie says he ruined that plan. He thinks the podcast didn't help Newsom, it hurt him. Why? Because it showed who Newsom really is. Someone full of slick one-liners, no real accomplishments, and desperate attempts to seem relatable. Charlie didn't believe for a second that Newsom was building momentum for a presidential run. He thought this podcast tour was more like a slow-motion collapse. And the more he tried to play moderate, the more his base started to turn on him. To Charlie, the whole thing wasn't a boost for Newsom, it was a takedown, one that revealed cracks in his image and stirred doubt in his own party. That was the real win. not just beating him in a debate, but exposing the mask. Charlie wasn't just speaking in theory, backed it up with numbers and impact. After the episode aired, it exploded. According to him, over 30 to 40 million people watched or listened to that conversation. That's not just viral, that's nuclear. And the audience wasn't just hardcore conservatives. It was filled with people in the middle, independents, and even folks from the tech world who rarely engage in political debates. He got messages from CEOs, Silicon Valley insiders, and everyday viewers who told him flat out, "You changed my mind." They weren't swayed by Newsom's polished image or slick words. They were impressed with Charlie's argumentation's calm delivery, his command of facts, and the way he stayed polite but firm. He didn't come in with a flamethrower. He came in with logic and exposed Newsom right on his home turf. This wasn't just about a win for Charlie personally, it was about reaching a part of America that's usually tuned out. People who don't watch cable news, people who don't follow political fights every day. And for the first time, they got to see a real challenge to Newsom in his own show. Charlie saw it as a massive victory. Not because it gave Newsom more airtime, but because it gave millions of people a reason to question his authenticity. And that, in Charlie's mind, was worth every second. But then came the real debate here. People actually going to remember any of this? Charlie made a strong case that Newsom is banking on short-term memory. That voters won't remember the lockdowns, the business closures, the hypocrisy of dining at fancy restaurants while ordering others to stay home. Charlie believes that version of Newsom can't survive a presidential campaign. But here's where it gets messy. Because let's be honest, people do forget. Fast. Think about COVID. Millions were furious in the moment. But now, many have moved on. Even some conservatives have stopped holding their own leaders accountable for what happened during the pandemic. So when Charlie claims that Newsom can't rely on people forgetting, there's real doubt. And Newsom knows how to play into that. Take the story he told on the podcast. He claimed his own son was such a fan of Charlie that he begged to skip school just to meet him. But the big heroic father, Newsom, said no school comes first. Sounds touching, right? But Charlie didn't buy a second of it. In fact, he called it out. He reminded everyone that Newsom kept schools shut down for 2 years in California. But now suddenly, one single day off is too much to ask? It didn't add up. Not to Charlie, and not to anyone paying attention. It felt like another one of those polished, made-for-camera lies meant to make Newsom look like a reasonable dad, instead of a ruthless politician. And that's when the real danger started to take shape, because this wasn't just about Gavin Newsom trying to win a debate. This was about him crafting a new identity, one that could fool the middle. One that says, hey, I'm not some radical Democrat. I talk to conservatives. I even had Charlie Kirk on my podcast. Imagine the campaign ad. Soft music, family footage, a clip of him smiling across from Charlie, saying something about fairness in girls' sports. It's all carefully edited to make him look moderate, thoughtful, and open-minded, but it's all fake. That's what Charlie and Megyn are warning about. Newsom doesn't need to win over the hardcore left. He already has them. What he needs is to trick independents. He needs to sell the idea that he's just a calm, reasonable guy caught in the middle. That's the game. And the podcast? That's the bait. Charlie could see it forming already. Newsom planting seeds for a 2028 run, pretending to reach across the aisle while doing nothing to fix the actual problems. It's the classic move, say the right things to the right people, then walk away and never act on them. And conservatives letting him do that without being held accountable? That's exactly how political monsters are built. Smooth talk, soft lighting, and no consequences. That's why Charlie doubled down. He said the podcast wasn't just about Gavin. It was about the millions of people who finally got a front row seat to what Newsom really is. And those viewers, they weren't impressed. People didn't walk away saying, wow, Gavin really crushed it. No, what they noticed was the dodging, the vague answers, the carefully rehearsed lines that fell flat when pushed just a little. One of the biggest takeaways? Newsom refused to go strong on the transgender sports issue, even after admitting it was unfair. He danced around it. He agreed in theory, but offered nothing in action. Charlie knew that moment hit hard because viewers started asking, if he knows it's wrong, why hasn't he done anything about it? Why hasn't he signed an executive order? Why hasn't he gone public with his stance? That moment cracked Newsom's image, and Charlie says that was the real win. He didn't just challenge him, he exposed the gap between what Newsom says and what he does. And once you start seeing that, it's hard to unsee it. In Charlie's eyes, Newsom walked into his own trap, hoping to look moderate, but instead showing just how fake and non-committal he really is. And it wasn't just conservatives who noticed, it was everyone. And now, Newsom's whole strategy is starting to backfire. Instead of gaining support, he's losing it, especially among his own base. Progressives don't trust him because he's suddenly playing nice with conservatives. Moderates see right through the act. And conservatives, they were never buying it to begin with. Charlie pointed it out, Newsom is under nonstop fire right now, and instead of doubling down on his Democrat credentials, he's chasing approval from the very people who oppose his policies. That never works. It makes him look weak, fake, and desperate. And instead of rising as a presidential hopeful, he's slowly fading into a political no man's land. And here's the part Charlie wanted everyone to understand. He doesn't regret doing the podcast. Not even for a second. Because it wasn't a gift to Newsom, it was a spotlight. A spotlight that showed millions what's really behind the polished image. Not a bold leader, not a centrist, but a guy trying to play all sides and losing trust from every direction. So, should other conservatives appear on Newsom's show? Charlie says yes, but only under one condition. They have to come prepared to challenge him. No smiles and small talk. No, we need more dialogue fluff. Just hard questions, policy demands, and full accountability. That's how you destroy the illusion. And that's how you keep Newsom from rewriting his legacy right in front of America. But there's one more layer to this story, and it's the part no one seems to talk about. It's not just about Gavin Newsom's podcast strategy or Charlie Kirk's defense of his appearance. It's about what happens when Democrats like Newsom use conservatives for credibility while quietly building their image with no real consequences. Charlie brought up a perfect example. Joe Biden. Back in 1988, Biden was forced to drop out of the presidential race in disgrace after it was exposed that he plagiarized an entire speech from a British politician. It wasn't just a line or two, it was the whole emotional story about his father working in the coal mines. Biden copied it almost word for word and acted like it was his own. When he got caught, he didn't fight it. He just dropped out and vanished from the spotlight. But here's the scary part. He came back. Not a few years later, but decades later, almost 40 years, and he became president of the United States. The same guy who had to leave in shame for lying to the public came back as the face of the Democratic Party. Charlie's point? Don't underestimate the comeback. If Biden can bounce back from a plagiarism scandal and cruise into the White House, Newsom absolutely can. Countless people are paying attention and calling him out. Unless people are holding him accountable, not just in private conversations, but in full public view. And that's why this whole podcast debate matters more than people realize. It's not just about who won the conversation. It's about the clips, the sound bites, the image Newsom is building. He's not trying to win the rights, trying to soften his look for the middle, to create this illusion that he's thoughtful, reasonable, and willing to listen, even if it's all performance. Charlie knows the game. He's warning everyone not to let it slide, because just like Biden, Newsom is playing the long game. And if conservatives aren't careful, if they don't hold the line, he'll rewrite his entire political past while they smile next to him on a podcast. That's why this isn't just some internet drama. It's a warning, a reminder that every moment on camera matters. Every word said or not said can shape what comes next. And this time, what comes next might just be a presidential run. Charlie made it crystal clear if more conservatives sit down with Gavin Newsom, they better come with fire, not flattery. Because here's the danger. If you treat it like some friendly coffee chat, you're letting him control the narrative, and that's exactly what he wants. Charlie explained what made his own appearance different. He wasn't there to bond or smile for the cameras. He was there to confront. And that's why it worked. When the transgender athlete issue came up, he didn't tiptoe around I've hit Newsom with a direct question. Not theory, not feelings. A clear, on-the-record policy question. And Newsom blinked. That's what other conservatives need to do. The next guest? Ask for updates. Ask why he admitted it was unfair, but still hasn't lifted a finger to stop it. Ask why a biological male is about to win the long jump championship in California, and he's doing nothing about it. Because if these conversations are just handshakes and good vibes, Newsom wins. He walks away with the footage, the sound bites, the appearance of balance. And voters forget the policies. Forget the lockdowns. Forget the hypocrisy. Charlie's point was simple. Don't play into the performance. Break it. Expose it. Force Newsom to answer for the gap between what he says and what he does. If enough Republicans walk into that studio with that mindset, Newsom's carefully built image will collapse right in front of his own audience. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Also, drop your thoughts in the comments. See you on the next one.